Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and today I'm excited to have with me the founder of Mental Golf Type. He's also the National Guild of Hypnotists Order of Braid winner. That's a lifetime achievement, ladies and gentlemen. That's tough to get. He's also caddied on tour. He has coaches that he's certified in over 60 countries. He kind of knows his stuff, guys. John Weir is with me. I'm super excited to have him here. John, thanks so much for coming on the show with me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to dive into things.
Yeah, it's so I gotta ask, how do you get to where you are? Were you a golfer? And I think some people hear like they've heard of hypnosis and being hypnotized, and but then there's definitely questions around like, is that legit? What is it? But then there's also all this research that you've done, and the Mental Golf Type is very much research based. Talk me through like how did you get, and then obviously you've applied this all to golf. So I'd love to just hear kind of your story and just share kind of the evolution and just the origin story of your career, and ultimately MGT.
Sure. I mean, I never would have thought I was going to be a mental coach when I was growing up. I was an athlete too my whole life, played basketball, multi-sport athlete, even was a competitive snowboarder for a while. So I used to joke with my golfers, that's where I learned commitment, because if you weren't committed there, you had some pretty good consequences.
Yeah.
But I was exposed to hypnosis when I was about 18. I wasn't in a real good place in my life, but my dad took me to a Peter Lowe success seminar, and I really was inspired. I mean, we actually had breakfast with Zig Ziglar. I was pretty pessimistic back then, and Mr. Zig Ziglar, if anybody knows about him, he's like one of the most positive motivators on the planet. And that kind of got everything rolling. But I fell in love with this particular speaker's man, Marshall Silver, with what he was saying about personal development and tapping into potential. And it was just a message I needed to hear at that stage of my life. And we signed up for a weekend success seminar with him, my sister and I. Long story short, out of about 300 people, she was the one who got picked to be the volunteer up on stage to show how the mind worked and the power of hypnosis.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, Chris, I wanted to go and get my money back. This is not for me, as like most people are out there. But my sister, very smart. I had all the same misconceptions, you had to be weak-willed, all these different things. But it started showing the power of the subconscious mind. What he gave her was a suggestion after she went right into this beautiful, relaxed state was, your body is stiff and rigid like a steel beam. Nothing could bend you, harm you, hurt you in any way. You are strong as a board. Literally, she was cataleptic at that point.
Wow.
Locked in the assistants came and tilted her across two chairs like a human table, face down, by the way.
Huh.
So she's just suspended across. And Marshall Silver stepped up on the small of my sister's back and was presenting his lecture on top of my sister.
Jesus.
And she didn't bow or bend or anything. And then afterwards, he's like, tell me about your experience. And she's like, I was aware of everything going on, but felt no discomfort or any pain. And to this day, she has no back problems or anything like that.
That's awesome.
And I can remember, Chris, it was like the sky parted in my mind. And I'm like, that was my sister. Had it been anybody else, I would have probably still remained skeptical. But it was kind of like custom-built experience in this world for me to see my future. And for the skeptics out there, I was very skeptical too. I ended up going to get trained and do a lot of things. I quit smoking. I improved my studies at school. I improved my athletic performance. All of these things very quickly started falling into place for me. And it really just erupted this passion for wanting to go out and help a lot of people. And initially I was doing a lot of behavior modification with people and things. It wasn't until I got tapped on the shoulder one day at Starbucks a couple years into my career. There was a gentleman who was going out for the Remax Long Drive Championship at that time, was the sponsor. And he's like, have you ever hypnotized golfers? And I was working with a lot of the hospitals, did work with several of the Steelers here in the Pittsburgh area. And I was like, my response back then always was like, yeah, of course, and I usually had time to prep and get ready for it.
As all of us young entrepreneurs. Oh yeah, I've done that 100 times. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right. And then he's like, well, I leave tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, well, ended up doing some work with him over the phone, and he ended up having one of his best finishes. And from there, it really just started snowballing with a lot of the golfers. And I'll tell you, to be honest, a lot of the people coming in to just do general behavior modification, referrals from doctors and things, as much as they needed to do it in their life as a positive step forward, it was like you really needed tools like hypnosis or neurolinguistic programming to kind of like get through the back door and get them to make a shift for their life. And with the golfers and the athletes, what I loved was they're like, what else can I do? Can I do more of this? You know, like, tell me some more. And so it kind of sparked my passion again to want to dive into athletics and focus primarily in golf. And it's just been, from there, it's been nothing but it. It's been my full focus. We've developed a hypnosis certification. We were training hypnotists from all around the world to help golfers tap into the zone, overcome a lot of mental hurdles, things like that. But mental golf type really changed everything for me. I mean, I thought I was passionate about tapping into the subconscious, but you'd see there are just some mix. You know, some people did really well. Other people needed more reinforcement and different things. But the underlying link was stress. And the number one thing all the golfers wanted was greater consistency. And what we realized was stress is the big thing that's changing the movement patterns and the mechanics of golfers out there. And like everybody has their own swing and they have their good and their bad. But it's the stress that inhibits that motion whenever you're hitting it well in the range and then take that step to the first tee. Mm-hmm. And MGT started coming into a play about 2011, 2012 range, where one of my colleagues was showing me the link between behavior stuff, negative behavior, smoking, weight loss, all this, and connecting it with their personality as a stress response. And he said, John, it's amazing. When they start to use these underdeveloped functions and they're in stress, they go right away for their coping mechanism. And I was like, that's really interesting. Because the thing that I'm trying to help my golfers with is helping them to eliminate stress. And so I started diving into the personality aspects. And the first time I did the assessment based on Jungian typology, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is me on paper. You know, it's like it freaked me out a little bit, to be honest. And then I remember this one conversation, Chris, with this gentleman. We were in California at the time. His name was Paul. And Paul was an exceptional golfer. I mean, D1 player, won multiple times in the SEC, just missed tour in the old system when you could go right through Q school and get there. And then had some struggles and started working with a psychologist. And he went in, the psychologist had really good intention. He's like, you know, I hear you having a lot of speculation and a lot of these kind of future projections in a negative way. Why don't you work on flipping that and just do it in a positive, like start anticipating good things happening and projecting that out. And it seems like good advice, right? Yeah. For this gentleman, he ended up going and playing for 3 years. I started talking to him when he was on the brink of quitting. His swing coach was like, you just got to talk to John. Just go and see what he can do. Yeah. In 36 events, he made 3 cuts.
That's a long
and
year.
Was like, couldn't even post numbers that he was proud of. He was walking off the course. Yeah. We put him through the assessment and going through see what his personality was. And his stress mode was what we call extroverted intuition, or speculating about future possibilities. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I've been trying to play golf like this for 3 years. We made some shifts based on his personality, the best of our ability then. Within 3 months, he had his first professional win.
Wow.
And from there, it was like, wow, what a difference it made. And we started exploring this across the country and across the world with as many golfers as we could get our hands on. And what was spooky, Chris, was you'd have people of the same personality type describing their best performances in the same way and their stresses in the same way. And by aligning it with this personality, it like tapped into people's greater consistency in better movement. So it's kind of where it all got started. And now it's been, I mean, over 12, 13 years now of this obsession in a way where it was a lot bigger project than I thought at first, but like it's been one of the most rewarding and enriching projects, finding out about how we can align things specific to the individual and help them to tap into that. So sorry for the long-winded response, but that's kind of where
there's nothing
where
more,
it's coming from.
There's nothing more interesting to me than like the origin of how do people get there. And it's funny, it's, so many of them start with like, I had no intention of doing what I am right now, but here we are, and this is how I got there. So I always appreciate those stories, and I thank you for sharing that with everyone listening. And I think I want to kind of start a little bit on the research side, because I know people are listening right now and they're like, what is he going to hypnotize me and I'm going to make all my putts? Like what is? And a lot of people don't even know what hypnosis is. So I would love for you to just explain, like, what is hypnosis, and then like, and how have you found it to be helpful, and for a golfer, and then is it part of the MGT system? Like, you kind of explaining to people a little bit more, of just giving more people knowledge and understanding about that. I feel like the physical side, will we obviously talk a lot about that on this pod, is very well understood. It's very concrete. It's like, hey, if I release this trigger point, boom, my joint goes from 40 degrees to 45 degrees. Like, very concrete, easy to comprehend. The mental, I find people sometimes find it a little more ambiguous. So,
Sure.
what is hypnosis, and how does it work, and is it something that people should look into doing, and is it part of MGT? I'm asking you like
Sure.
17 questions here, but I think these are all questions that I hear from clients that we have.
Sure. Well, let's unpack it. Well, first off, anything you've basically seen in a movie about hypnosis is misconception and falsehood.
Wait,
I mean,
Hollywood isn't accurate? Is that? Are we going on record as saying that?
Chris, I have to be honest. I was hoping to be able to like do that, and,
Yeah.
but yet it didn't work that way. Obviously, if we had the magic wand, everybody would be healthy, happy, and really productive in whatever they're pursuing, right? We tend to call hypnosis now mental fitness because it's a more accurate description of what it is. It's a way of strengthening your mind and being able to drive into thinking very powerfully in the things that you really want to do. So, but it is rooted in science. So let's just look at really practical what it is. We have 4 predominant brain waves in our life that we cycle through in our brain all the time. And this is an everyday occurrence. We have beta, that's where we're hopefully all at right now, fully awake and alert. That's that real short, fast frequency. And in this state is primarily using your left hemisphere to judge, evaluate, and critique all the things we're bombarded with all day. And it's filtering this information to make sure, is this right for me? Is this not right for me? Because just think about, like, as soon as you look at social media, I mean, you got like thousands of imprints going through there. And hopefully our brain's doing a good job of filtering some of this information out. We have alpha brain waves. Now, this is synonymous with the zone. So whenever you're playing golf in the zone, we're in that relaxed state of present moment awareness. Other times we experience this in life is like driving your car on autopilot. Like, you get in your car some days and you got a lot on your mind. You get to work and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember driving. Did I stop at the stop sign? That's a form of it. Or getting relaxed and walking through a nice park, or staring at the beach and watching the waves. These things will all relax our brain and put us into alpha brain waves. Theta waves are when we're starting to get into lucid dreaming and deep sleep states where our minds are actively dreaming and having those beautiful moments in the mornings, or like Saturday morning if you get to hit the snooze and kind of drift into that nice space. And then we have delta waves, and these are those deep unconscious waves whenever we're in unconscious sleep. Every single day you're oscillating through these things. So if you want to take advantage, first off, and learn to hypnotize yourself really easy at home to get more out of it, your first and last 20 minutes of every day, you're in alpha and theta brainwaves, primarily alpha, because you're cycling through these. And that's when your mind is most suggestible to positive ideas. And essentially what hypnosis is it's a way of relaxing the mind and putting a person into a nice relaxed state. So we're suspending some of that analysis, and we're able to get our information into the minds when we're a lot more receptive. Now, when we're kids and we have the big feats of learning, like learning to speak and learning mathematics and all these big, huge feats of learning. I mean, even language is something we do really early on. And it's well known that there's that critical learning phase. Like if you learn a second language before you turn 7, you're much more likely to be able to learn future languages and things down the road. But as adults, we've kind of lost touch with that learning capability because we were stuck in the beta waves. Kids just absorb and they're acting upon the information. And when you look at the research of early development, they're primarily in alpha and theta brainwaves. And this is when our brain's like a sponge where we can absorb and then take action on it. So nobody's going to do things against their will. You always have those protective filters and things in mind. And like whenever you're working with someone in hypnosis, it's essentially you're giving them permission to relax you and install or drive in that thinking that you've been trying to get in for a long time.
Yeah.
So for a golfer, it might be conditioning to the gripping of their club, a feeling of relaxation or a state of confidence. It could help people overcome any negative mental scar tissue, if you will, from past events that didn't go so well. We can help to recontextualize it and get different information in there. But it does take time, and the more we can build it and get into those states, the more effectively we can alter our brain and activate neuroplasticity. So It's a pretty common term out there what people have heard. And neuroplasticity means your brain can begin to reshape and remold itself based on the things we are constantly saying to ourselves. And for golfers and in anything in life, I mean, let's just look at a simple everyday example. Your brain's always following through with your self-talk. You get on the tee and you go, oh, don't slice it. Next thing you know, you have this picture of slicing and you hit the most beautiful slice in the world. Your brain accomplishes it, like, oh my gosh.
Couldn't have done it if you tried.
Right. And so it's a way of amplifying that self-talk and driving it in so we're actually acting on the information. And so it's nothing supernatural. It's, again, relaxation, getting into the right learning states, driving that information in and absorbing it. We do have some parts of MGT that is based with hypnosis. It's a way of installing and really getting you to take action on your strengths. But it isn't exclusive to that. So again, what MGT brings into picture is we have the universal aspects of what the zone is. And I alluded to that. It's the alpha brainwaves, relaxed present moment awareness. Universally, that's what everybody's brain is getting to whenever we're performing in those peak states. That's only one side of the coin, though. The other side of the coin is subjectively, well, how does Chris get to that state versus me, versus the next guy that you're working with? And everybody has a unique route to getting into that state. So what relaxes you might be a lot different than me. And then for that example with Paul, I get relaxed by future projection and imagining what's ahead and bringing that vision into my here and now. Whereas for his personality type, it was very, very detrimental. So the goal number one is, how does everybody at an individual level work their brain properly to get into the most relaxed state possible in order to maximize their performance? And then also we look at the other side of the coin, which is what prevents peak performance from taking place. And what prevents it universally is stress. It's universally, everybody's going into stress. So what does the brain science say about stress and it relates to your golf swing? Well, your motion doesn't change in an instant. If you talk to any real honest swing coach and you say, hey, I want to rebuild my golf swing and I want to go from hitting a cut to hitting a draw, let's say, they're going to tell you it's going to take 8 to 18 months to be able to really correct and change your mechanics. And that's if you're a dedicated student, right? So your mechanics aren't shifting from hitting it really great on the range to that magical walk to the first tee, or you have this great front nine and now suddenly you make the turn and now the mechanics go away. It's your motion isn't breaking down. What's breaking down the motion?
I figured it out. Right. The famous last words. I think I figured it out on that front nine, and then they blow up. You blow up for a 50 on the back.
That's it. And what's happening? It's actually subtle forms of stress. And when the stress is secreting in your mind, you have cortisol going on, and the cortisol is acting like a paralytic on your motor cortex, or the place where your stored and trained golf swing lives. So a little bit of tension, a little bit of cortisol, we might see a little shift in the behavior of the golf swing, like maybe blocking it or not being able to release the club. Sometimes people's cortisol levels get so high that they're like, I don't even know if I've played this game before. Like, who is this? It's like I've never swung the club. And that's the effect of the stress on the motor cortex. But again, what's going to stress you out is going to be a lot different than maybe what stresses me out. And what we found is it is directly linked to your personality type. And whenever you understand your personality, you actually are getting the blueprint to how your brain is performing at your best in that stress. And MGT isn't so much teaching you new, it's actually teaching you what you do and how you're using your brain whenever you're playing well and effectively, and also specifically what is the way that those subtle forms of stress are coming in and inhibiting your performance. And lastly, it's the real subtle stress that's crippling the performance. It's not the acute stress. Like acute stress would be like first tee nerves. You're on the cut line and you got to make this putt. You're leading the event and you got to close it out. I mean, those are really acute forms of stress, but people are very aware that that's taking place. Heart's pounding, hands are shaking. You need to attend to it, and people will do their best to calm themselves and attend to those things. But it's the subtle stress. So what we look at with MGT is 4 facets of the personality, and believe it or not, there's 2 different ways your brain could be focusing. It's like a right and a left hand. Now, if you're going and focusing in the wrong way, that's subtle stress. You might not even be aware of that. Like, simple example is aim small, miss small. For a population of the golf world, that's a terrible advice. Like, the smaller they start restricting their aim and trying to get tight, actually invokes subtle stress. The subtle stress clamps down on their motor cortex, and you're going to see an immediate poor swing on that next
Mm-hmm.
shot. And it's just basic physiology and the science of how the mind is working.
Yeah.
And so the hypnosis aspect of MGT just helps you to accelerate this learning process. So even though this is your strength, you have habits, right? And our goal is to now create the habit of bringing your peak all the time to the course. And so we use hypnosis as tools within the learning system to accelerate that learning process. So you can just play better golf by sitting on your lazy boy and relaxing and installing it into your brain a little bit more.
For sure.
So,
because I took the initial test that you had sent over, and I think I was just looking it up. I think I was an ISTJ, and so basically, it very much so. For me, I am more internal focused I am, the better I do, the more I'm worried about what other people are thinking, or the worse I do. And I could remember, as funny as I was like reading, the results or watching the video, and I remember when I did my first ever U.S. Open local qualifier, and I got to the first tee, and they said that, I think I was the fourth to tee off in the group. I can't remember if it was threes or fours, but I was the last guy to go in the group. The first two or three guys were professionals, and I was new to competitive golf. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't grow up playing golf. got good enough for my handicap was low enough. They told me I could go play this thing. So I was like, yeah, why not? Literally, professional golfer from so-and-so. And I immediately am like, no, I didn't realize at the time they were club professionals. They weren't like tour professionals. But I'm like, oh my God, these guys are going to think I suck. Like, what am I doing here? Right. I immediately duff it off the front, like the first tee. I had gone and played a practice round at this place. Probably like the week before, and I'd shot 73, 74, first time seeing the course. John, I got a letter from the USGA after saying that I shot too high of a score in the qualifier that was more than 10 strokes beyond whatever. saying it basically was like a warning: if you ever play this poorly again, you will not be allowed to play in the event. But I vividly remember every shot, just like apologizing to the guy. I'm so sorry, guys. I swear I'm not this bad. But I was so worried about what they would think and putting it on them. When in reality, they probably didn't even notice because they were so worried about their own games. They didn't exactly play great either. But that's something 100% that I found that was very accurate to it. Is the more, when I go out and recently, I'm not playing a bunch these days just because I'm busy and working and whatever. But I went out and played the first time in a month and shot 66. And I think back to the round and I'm like, I really was just hanging out with the guys in the cart, didn't really think about anything, and then all of a sudden I'd made 7 birdies in a row.
Right.
And it was very much just, I'm going out and just play. So it very much, it's for me, it was eye-opening to start to understand who I was, and that, if I was focused on everyone else, and starting to understand at least, when I get stressed, that's what I tend to do. And so it's sounding like with MGT and with hypnosis in particular, you can start to, now that you would know what the blueprint is, of mine or whoever's you listening, whatever your personality was, kind of how you could address that and kind of the right approach, as opposed to sometimes it sounds like there's detrimental approaches.
Yeah, 100%. So what we look at whenever we're doing an assessment for your mental golf type is 4 main facets of your personality. And so one is your energy source, which you kind of alluded to. You can either be extroverted or introverted. This is one of the most observable signs, but believe it or not, it makes such a huge difference. For example, classic on tour, Phil Mickelson, chatty, engaging the crowd. Bryson, a recent example at the U.S. Open. And then you have introverted players like Tiger Woods, who do better whenever they're staying a lot more contained. Interesting enough, whenever we get stressed, we do the opposite of these things. So you'll see Phil go from talking and engaging, then he gets quiet, his head comes down. If he's struggling, he's in his own bubble. And the dialogue's going, it's just still happening inside his head, and it's usually negative. And what happens to the introverts? They go from being in their bubble and into that quiet inner space, and they start leaking their energy out into their environment, whether to distractions or people, different environmental things. And as the energy goes out, again, they start decreasing in performance. Tiger's a classic example. He slam his club, you start seeing him lash out, different things. So if you're an extrovert, you can just simply talk. Talking fuels your brain. Talking out your shots, your decisions, it relaxes your brain. And we did a lot of research with the focus band where you can actually see the relaxation happening whenever the person is speaking, and vice versa. I used to caddy for an introvert on tour. we had to work out a way that, like, whenever you arrived at the shot, we both did the math in the same sequence, but I never talked until he verbalized it first, because the introvert likes to process everything fully in their mind first, whereas like the extrovert would just start out with a half-baked idea and finish it
Yeah.
through the verbalization. And so had I not known this, I probably would have worked myself out of a job really quick.
Yeah.
But we have a mental right and a left hand. We do all these different facets. But one is your strength that you do naturally. It relaxes your brain. The other creates cognitive overload or that cortisol release inside of the brain. We also look at your focus, and we have two different styles of focus. We have sensing and intuitives. Real short, like a sensor is more sensory based. They like things that are factual. They can touch, taste, feel, smell. They like details, working in a systematic, sequential way. Whereas intuitive minds, they tend to look more at big picture, looking at how things interconnect, or they like to learn by concepts or understanding theory first, and then followed up with some necessary details. So again, this actually plays a big thing in our focus at address position, how we're selecting targets, what we're paying attention to start each one of our shot processes. And again, whenever it's predictable. For me, I'm an intuitive. I'm better at like having mental images and seeing ball flights and having my end target in mind. What happens when I get stressed? I get trapped in mechanics and I start getting into tons of how-to thinking, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
bogged down here. And next thing you know, my swing just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And for my example with Paul, he's definitely much more in tune with having a simple, practical action to do in his golf swing. And for 75% of the golf population, believe it or not, it's how they operate. Yet all those old classic sports psychology books say target, target, target. And the majority of golfers go out there now are disconnected. They start focusing on their end goal. They're losing touch with that simple, practical action in their golf swing. And next thing you know, performance struggles. And we leave the course, it's like, man, I know I'm better than this, and I'm leaving shots out there, and people don't understand why. It's like these subtle shifts in the way we're using our brain and these different styles for focus. Same thing with decision making and also how we structure our time to accomplish our goals. I mean, we have, again, a right and a left hand all the way down the board. So what we try to do is we show you what your strengths are and how you're employing these things on the golf course. Second, we show you what's stressing you specifically and how you're making these shifts. And then we teach strategies on how to correct it. And like I said, over time, like what we're doing is we're rerouting, we're creating new neural pathways of you being more at your best. And so we teach you how to do this in your shot process, and now your shot process can become trackable. So we can actually help you to get a real legit mental performance score at the end of each round. So even something as simple as like your focus, where were you picking targets correct, and were you correctly focusing at addressing the right thing? And so you can actually get now a measurable score at the end of your round. What happens over time is you start building out and getting stronger and stronger and better at it. And pretty soon you're able to catch it, correct it within a swing or so. You don't have these long stretches of blow up holes or poor performance. And you're in the driver's seat basically in your game, and you know what to do. And again, this becomes a habit over time. So pretty soon you're literally wiring your peak performance into your game with some training and some consistency with it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It truly was. I was, reading the results, and I was like, oh, yep, okay, yep, can confirm, that's me. Yeah, oh, yep, that's like when I'm bad, that's what I do. Yeah, but I would love for you to highlight, like, if you had to pick like the top 3 myths that you hear, or that just conceptually people have about mental training in general. Like, I think eye-opening that 75% of golfers actually do better if they focus on a simple mechanical thing as opposed to focus on target. like what are kind of the big ones that you run across often, or that you would think most listeners right now are kind of have in their heads that need to have some false beliefs broken?
Sure. So I would think the top 2 that come to mind right away is like you have to be a pro to do mental training.
Yeah.
And also I'm going to work first on my swing and not on my mental. Okay.
Yeah.
So your mental and your mind is the thing that drives everything out there. Okay. So if it was just putting more reps in your golf swing, everybody does that, you would have already overcome your performance challenges. Yeah. It's how you're thinking under pressure that's making the impact. But every single player can benefit from training their mind. Again, it's the driver of all things. My father passed away 2 years ago, but he was one of my favorite people to be working with in golf because he had a terrible over-the-top golf swing. Nothing changed. He also had Parkinson's, so that didn't help. I always joked to say, like, well, you get tour nerves all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But he started doing the training, and the thing was, is even where he was, which he was shooting consistently between, 80 and 90 all the time, he had his good game, and he had his good swings, and he had his poor swings, right? And the goal is that every golfer is paying to go out there. Why get stressed and why be angry? Our goal is to bring out the best that we have. And he ended up winning his league 3 times. He ended up making all kinds of great improvements simply because he started understanding how his mind was wired and giving himself the best opportunity to succeed with what he had. So high handicappers can benefit significantly. And in fact, if you're in your club, your leagues, like just a little bit of mental training, you will be like really making significant performance gains against your peers. It's pretty startling. And the other thing is that like I'm just going to train my swing first. The thing is again, it isn't your mechanics that are breaking things down. And I'm not suggesting that you're not working on mechanics. That's a staple. If you play the game or any athletics, you're constantly working this. But what our goal is the more you can eliminate the stress out of your game, the more you get your best swing consistently. And this doesn't take a long time. So, for example, going into the extrovert-introvert idea, we have some videos within the system where you see players change within one swing. So we have players in there talking, and they're describing their shot. They're an extrovert. Flush, flush, flush. Then we say, okay, let's just be quiet for 5 minutes and hit some shots. And it's like these players can't even find the face. It's chunk shot, thin shot, this. They're like, oh, my God. And within one swing, Chris, they start talking again.
Yeah.
It eases the cognitive load, and it's back to normal mechanics.
Yeah.
We had one video there. This girl, she's introverted. She's quiet. She's flushing it, right? She's standing in the divot the whole time. Her foot's in the divot, okay? Yeah. And then we started talking to her, and she's like, okay, well, talk this out. She's like, oh, yeah, I just noticed I'm standing in this divot and all this stuff. And she's chatting, and she's starting to get more extroverted. Next thing you know, she can't hit the ball. It's just so all over the place. Yeah. She takes a breath, goes within, thinks through what she wants to do, flush, right back. These things aren't difficult to apply. It's just a matter of learning what you do. Now, like you alluded to earlier, you had that great round. Players come off, they scratch their head, and they go, oh, my God, why did I play so great? It felt so simple and so natural. And then they come off the other times, and they're like, what am I doing wrong out here making such a shift? This brings to light actually what you're doing. And by just applying a little bit and out without changing anything mechanically, you can get more of your best more consistently. And so it's something that you can be working in very seamlessly into your practice, into your lessons, into your time on the range. But you can't segment things. Like, again, the biggest driver of your performance is your brain. It isn't the mechanics. Obviously, the better your mechanics are, the more quality of golf shots you can produce. But still, it comes down to how you think under pressure and what goes on when you tee it up. And the stress also, the last thing I'd say is evoked. It's not always subtle. It's real or imagined situations. Yeah. So a lot of people aren't aware that your brain will still fire fight or flight, whether you're being chased by a gator out on that golf course or whether you're imagining like not wanting to screw up in front of your friends. Right. Or for you, you were performing in front of those pros and you go, oh my God, I don't want to like embarrass myself there. Well, that imagined threat secretes tremendous amount of cortisol. And when that happens, again, your brain flips. You go from using your dominant preferences and you immediately now are using inferior ones. Real simple example, if you have a pen at home and a piece of paper, sign your name with your dominant hand and just make a signature and notice how the performance is and notice the result. So when I ask people, they say, well, how was the performance? They say smooth, it was easy, it was effortless. And then we look at the result and the result's pretty clean. It's like what you're expecting. And then I tell them, okay, well now put it in your non-dominant hand. For me, it's your left. And make your signature now with your left hand. And describe performance and look at the result. And what happens is it's usually tedious, mechanical, it's really difficult. And then you look at the result, it's pretty mediocre. Not even close to the natural. And this is us going out and pegging it without understanding what's our natural preference. We go out, we work harder, we're grinding, and yet we're not getting the results that we're really looking for. Whereas by understanding your mental game, it gets easier It's more effortless. And when you get done and you look at your scorecard, you're smiling because you're actually performing a lot more to your capabilities each time.
Well, I mean, this is so cool, and I hope everyone listening. I hope you guys are taking it all in. That the mental game is not like amorphous. I think that for me was the most reassuring part was the fact that like you can actually figure this out, like, and that there's a process to it. And so I'd really encourage everyone. It's like best places for people to get in contact with you or check out MGT. I think you guys are on Instagram pretty well, as well as the website, right? Well, if you wouldn't mind sharing those contact places for people to
Sure.
follow you.
Yeah, you can go and take the mental fitting for free. It's kind of like getting a club fitting. It's like
Yeah,
just for your mind. It's at mentalgolftype.com, and we give you a bunch of free resources and show you about your personality type and things from there. And you can also check us out at Mental Golf Type at Instagram as well, and dive into some of the content there as well.
fantastic. And we'll make sure we put the links in the show notes for all you guys as well. But definitely go check that out, and definitely worth figuring out what is your profile, and maybe you should shut up on the golf course. Maybe you should talk more. Who knows?
That's right.
But you can find out. But John, I can't thank you enough for coming on today, man. This has been awesome, very eye opening, and obviously I've learned a lot. And I hope everyone listening, I hope you've learned a lot as well. But John, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure. And everyone, as always, thanks for hanging out with me here in the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next episode.